in a vast and peaceful corner of the countryside, where the sky painted itself in brilliant shades of blue and the sun stretched its golden fingers over the landscape. There lived a kind-hearted rancher named Tom. His sprawling ranch was a patchwork of grassy meadows, rolling hills, and stunning canyons carved by time. Tom had dedicated his life to caring for animals, nurturing the land, and ensuring that everything on his ranch thrived. If you enjoy this video, please like the video and subscribe for more, and tell me where you are watching from today. I always find it awesome to see where all my viewers are watching from. Let's get back to the video. Every morning, he would rise with the sun, greeting the day with a warm smile and a cup of strong coffee. The chirping of birds filled the air as he stepped outside, ready to tend to his duties. Tom's ranch was not only his home, it was a sanctuary for all creatures big and small. He had cows grazing peacefully in the fields, pigs rummaging happily in the mud, and chickens clucking around the barn. Each animal had its own personality, and Tom treated them all like family. While working at the barn one tranquil afternoon, Tom paused to take in his surroundings. The breeze carried with it a sweet scent of wildflowers mixed with earthy hay, creating a comforting aroma that reminded him of home. With each passing day, he felt more connected to this land, the land that had provided for him through every season. Yet, something was different that day. An unusual quiet hung in the air, stirring his curiosity. As he moved toward the edge of one of the canyons nearby, Tom noticed how vibrant and alive nature could be. The trees stood tall and proud against the backdrop of rocky walls, their leaves rustling gently as if whispering secrets to one another. The sunlight danced among them, creating shadows that played on the ground like children at play. Just when he thought all was serene, a distant sound broke through abruptly. A soft yet urgent crying echoed through the canyon. Tom furrowed his brow, tilting his head as he concentrated on deciphering where the noise was coming from. It sounded like a tiny voice calling out for help. Something inside him stirred at the thought. He felt an overwhelming urge to discover what could be causing such distress. The usually tranquil atmosphere suddenly felt heavier with concern. With determination filling his heart, Tom quickly set aside his tools and made his way toward the canyon's edge. His boots crunched against loose gravel as he carefully descended into the rocky crevice. Each step felt like an adventure. He was both excited and anxious about what lay ahead. The sound grew louder with every stride he took, a heart-wrenching melody that tugged at his heartstrings. Once inside the canyon's embrace, Tom glanced around cautiously but purposefully. The towering rock walls loomed around him as he navigated further down into its depths. Suddenly, amid clusters of prickly bushes and thorny plants, he spotted something small moving in distress. There it was, a beautiful little colt. Its tawny coat glistened softly in the dappled light filtering through the branches above. But despite its beauty, something was terribly wrong. It struggled helplessly between tangled roots and sharp thorns that seemed determined to keep it trapped. The sight sent waves of urgency rushing through Tom's veins. Tom stepped closer, but remained cautious not to startle the frightened creature. He could see fear flickering in its large brown eyes as it let out another cry, this time more desperate than before. The colt's legs were caught awkwardly among thick vines. It nudged at them with its nose, but only became more entangled in its struggles. Tom's heart raced as compassion washed over him like warm sunlight breaking through clouds on a stormy day. "Hey there," he whispered softly, kneeling down so he could be at eye level with the colt. He didn't want to frighten it further, but hoped to convey calmness with his voice. The colt paused for a moment at Tom's soothing tone, its wide eyes fixed on him, as if sensing that help had arrived. "I'm here to help you," he reassured it gently, while reaching out slowly with outstretched hands. As he approached carefully, Tom couldn't help but feel an immediate bond forming between them. A connection forged by shared vulnerability and trust, even amidst fear and uncertainty. This was no ordinary encounter. There was something special about this moment that made Tom realize how interconnected all lives truly were. Taking a deep breath, Tom focused on assessing how best to free this little creature from its predicament without causing more panic. Time seemed to stretch as he pondered what steps to take next, while feeling resolute. He couldn't leave without helping this innocent soul find freedom once again. As he prepared to act decisively, but tenderly, Tom's mind brimmed with thoughts about what tomorrow might bring for both him and this fragile colt now in need. A new friendship, perhaps? Or maybe even a grand adventure waiting just around the corner. Whatever lay ahead, one thing became crystal clear. Life on his ranch would never be quite the same again after this encounter in the canyon. As Tom continued his daily routines, the idyllic setting of his ranch enveloped him, making him feel connected to every inch of the land he loved. He tended to his chores with dedication, checking on the cows grazing lazily in the fields and ensuring that the pigs were happy, wallowing in their mud puddles. The sun hung high in the sky, casting a warm glow that seemed to wrap around everything like a gentle embrace. But as he worked that afternoon, an unexpected sound interrupted the peaceful atmosphere. It was a soft yet eerie cry, a noise that sliced through the usual chorus of chirping birds and gentle breezes. Tom paused, his heart skipping a beat as he listened intently through the rustling leaves and rustling grass. The crying was distant but distinct, carrying a note of urgency that pulled at his attention. It resonated from deep within the canyon, a place where shadows danced and sunlight struggled to penetrate. He squinted toward the rocky cliffs ahead, trying to pinpoint the source of this mysterious sound. What could it be? Was it an animal in trouble? Tom felt a wave of unease wash over him. The peaceful ambiance he cherished was suddenly thick with concern. He had seen many things on his ranch. Chirpy chicks learning to scratch at the ground, playful calves frolicking about. But he had never encountered something like this before. The cry echoed again, slightly louder this time. It almost seemed desperate, tugging at Tom's heartstrings. A sense of duty ignited within him. Without thinking twice, Tom set down his pitchfork, wiping his brow with the back of his hand as he cast one last glance at his chores. "I'll be back soon," he murmured to no one in particular before hastily making his way toward the canyon. His boots crunched against loose gravel with each step as he approached, anxiety bubbling up inside him like a boiling pot. Was someone, or something, in danger? The thought quickened his pace as he trod carefully along the path, leading down into the cool shadow of the canyon's embrace. Once there, Tom paused at the canyon's edge and took a moment to take in what lay before him. The tall rock walls stood proudly, framing patches of bright green vegetation below where life thrived despite being tucked away from direct sunlight. Yet that beautiful scene was overshadowed by the persistent crying that echoed off stone walls like a heartbreaking song. "Where are you?" he called out softly, hoping somehow that his voice would guide whatever was trapped toward him. If only that yearning could bridge whatever distance lay between them. Tom moved further into the canyon, stepping gingerly over round stones and thick roots that coiled around one another like they were dancing to their own rhythm beneath him. The mysterious crying grew ever louder, as if urging him forward, a call for help echoing off rock faces and enveloping his senses in concern. As he ventured deeper into this hidden world surrounded by soaring cliffs and whispering trees, Tom's heart raced with anticipation and worry alike. What kind of creature needed assistance? Was it an injured animal, or perhaps something lost? Each question collided in his mind like ripples spread across water. The air felt different here. It was cooler and heavier, with an unshakable tension that made every breath seem significant. After what felt like an eternity navigating rocky terrain, Tom strained to listen for any hints about where the cries came from while keeping an eye out for signs. Anything that might lead him closer to whoever needed help. Then a glimmer of movement caught his eye amid thick bushes growing wild across the canyon floor just ahead. Something small appeared tangled in thorny vines. His heart sank as despair washed over him. Had he stumbled upon something trapped? He edged closer cautiously while keeping ears attuned to listen for more cries. Indeed, there it was again. A small whimper intertwined with soft snorts of distress emanating from within those prickly branches. Fear gripped Tom's chest as he stepped carefully through vibrant foliage towards whatever awaited him just beyond. A secret shared between nature and himself. In that moment, the world around faded away. The soft sounds became a siren song leading him onward, until finally breaking through into clear view. What lay before him would alter not just this day, but also reshape life on his beloved ranch forevermore. As Tom stood at the edge of the canyon, the resonating cries reverberated through the air, tugging at his heart with a mix of worry and curiosity. He was torn between the urgency to discover what lay hidden in the shadows and the fear that he might uncover something heartbreaking. The tranquil world he had known for so long felt suddenly fragile, as if it had been touched by a shadow that sent shivers down his spine. Taking a deep breath, he tried to calm his racing heart. What if it's just some animal lost or hurt, he thought. But a nagging feeling whispered that it could be something more serious. The cries seemed to call out for help, reaching deep into his core and igniting a sense of responsibility in him. He had always believed that every creature deserved compassion, and this moment felt like a test of that principle. With each passing second, as the cries echoed louder, Tom's curiosity consumed him. What kind of creature could be making such a sound? Was it an injured animal in need of rescue? Or was it a wild creature caught off guard in a moment of vulnerability? Shaking off the doubts swirling in his mind, Tom reminded himself that he had to know. It was time to investigate. He stepped closer to the canyon's mouth, feeling the cool breeze rush past him, as though encouraging him to move forward. The rocky terrain descended steeply before him, dotted with wildflowers and patches of greenery thriving in the crevices. Tom took a moment to appreciate the beauty around him, the vibrant colors against the backdrop of weathered rocks. But the urgency of the cries drew his attention back. Gritting his teeth against trepidation, Tom made his way down the narrow path. As he navigated through loose gravel and jutting stones, each step heightened his anticipation while also amplifying his worries. What if he encountered danger? Or what if he found something too painful to bear? Yet even as these thoughts raced through his mind, they were overpowered by an overwhelming pull toward the sound. The same pull that urged him to keep going. The sounds grew clearer as he moved deeper into the canyon. At times, they would soften, as if the creature sensed someone was near. Other times, they would swell with urgency, echoing off stone walls like ghosts seeking shelter. His heart began to beat in sync with the cries, rapid and desperate, stirring emotions he never expected to feel during an otherwise ordinary day. "Stay calm," he whispered to himself, attempting to dissolve the anxiety that gripped him like a tight fist. "You can help whatever it is." With every word spoken softly into the wilderness around him, Tom felt a little stronger, a little more determined. A world without compassion held no meaning for him. He wanted to provide care where it was needed most. The path twisted and turned amid towering rock formations and thick vegetation, each step peeling back layers of anxiety. But just as Tom felt confident about forging ahead, doubt crept back in. What if there was nothing he could do? What if he couldn't free whatever lay trapped? As if answering those questions, another mournful cry rang out from somewhere ahead. It seemed more desperate now. A plea for assistance that transcended words and made Tom's resolve harden like steel. He tightened his grip on an imaginary anchor within himself and pushed forward with renewed purpose. Finally, after what felt like both an eternity and mere moments spent moving deeper into this unexpected adventure, Tom spotted movement among clusters of thorny bushes near a shadowy corner. His breath caught in his throat, every sense heightened as he approached cautiously. What awaited him just beyond those brambles could alter everything, for both himself and whatever creature laid ensnared. Tom's heart raced as he neared the source of the cries, anticipation coursing through him with every heartbeat. Would it be a small bird struggling for flight? A deer caught in brambles? Or perhaps something larger? With each possibility whirling through his mind like leaves caught in a gust of wind, he felt excitement mingling with apprehension. In that instant, amidst uncertainty, Tom realized that this was more than just curiosity driving him forward. It was an instinct fueled by empathy for fellow beings struggling against odds. Whatever awaited just beyond those prickly vines was deserving of kindness and understanding. Qualities Tom had nurtured all his life on this very ranch. Summoning his courage once more, Tom knew there was no turning back now. Only one thought fully consumed his mind. I must help. And with that unwavering determination guiding him like an invisible thread, connecting them all through shared existence, he pressed onward into uncharted territory where hope awaited amidst despair. As Tom pressed deeper into the canyon, the air around him became cooler and thicker with the scent of damp earth and rich vegetation. The rocky walls loomed above, casting elongated shadows that danced with every flicker of sunlight filtering down through the branches. Each step felt like a journey into a different world, one that held secrets just beyond his reach. The cries echoed ceaselessly, a haunting melody that propelled him onward, filling him with an urgency he had never known. With each cautious step, Tom's heart raced faster. He could feel the weight of uncertainty hanging in the air around him, mingling with the sweet fragrances of wildflowers and fresh grass. The path twisted and turned like a labyrinth, leading him through dense underbrush and over gnarled roots that clawed at his ankles. But he pressed on, driven by an instinct stronger than any fear. Finally, after what felt like an eternity of traversing uneven ground and dodging prickly plants, Tom found himself in a small clearing nestled within the canyon's depths. There was an unusual hush in this hidden spot. Even the cries seemed to soften into whimpers, as if holding their breath for what would happen next. He scanned his surroundings, adrenaline coursing through his veins as anticipation filled the air, like static before a storm. Then it caught his eye. An unexpected flash of movement among the thorny bushes at the far edge of the clearing. Curiosity propelled him forward again as he stepped closer to investigate. Each cautious advance heightened the tension. He could almost feel the energy humming through his fingertips as he approached what lay ahead. Suddenly, there it was. Tom froze in place, his breath hitching in disbelief at what he saw. A young colt, no older than a few months, struggling helplessly in a tangle of sharp thorns and vines. Its tawny coat glimmered softly in the dappled sunlight, but was marred by dirt and sweat from its frantic attempts to escape. The colt let out another cry, a mix of fear and pain that echoed through Tom's heart. "Oh no," he whispered softly, stepping closer while keeping his movements slow and deliberate to avoid startling the frightened creature further. The sight of those large brown eyes, filled with confusion and distress, pierced right through him. In that moment, everything else faded away. The rugged canyon walls, the songs of birds overhead. It was just him and this vulnerable being in need. Tom crouched down at a safe distance from the colt's thrashing legs as it struggled against its bindings. He could see how deeply entangled it was among thorny vines. Each movement only seemed to tighten their hold on its small frame. It nudged at them gently with its nose, but only managed to make things worse. "Hang on, little one," Tom murmured softly with compassion threading through his voice. "I'm here to help you." He reached out slowly with one hand, extended toward the colt's trembling body. Fearing that sudden movements might frighten it away or worsen its panic, he kept his voice calm as he approached. The colt looked up at Tom with wide eyes that sparkled with fear, yet held a flicker of hope, the kind that sparks when someone reaches out during desperate times. Encouraged by this connection, Tom steadied himself before inching closer still until he was close enough to touch. With deliberate care, he began to untangle the vines ensnaring those small legs, while whispering soothing words meant to comfort both himself and the frightened animal before him. "You're going to be okay," he promised gently as he worked meticulously through each knot formed by nature's stubborn grasp. Time slipped away as Tom focused on freeing the colt. Every second felt significant, as if they were suspended in this shared moment between man and creature. The cries transformed into soft snorts as fear began to give way to trust. A gradual shift marked by tentative breaths exchanged between them. After what felt like hours spent unraveling nature's tight grip on this fragile life, Tom finally felt resistance fade beneath his fingers until, there, with one last tug on a particularly stubborn vine, he freed its delicate leg from captivity. A rush of exhilaration surged within him. They had made it. The colt stood still for a moment, legs shaky and uncertain, as if unsure whether to flee or stay put. Then finally, it took a tentative step forward toward Tom, who remained knelt nearby, offering warmth just inches away from where it had been trapped moments ago. Tom grinned broadly despite a wave of exhaustion washing over him. Relief flooded his senses like cool water after a long drought as their gazes met once more. The connection deepened now, by shared trials faced together amidst shadows lurking nearby. He knew they had crossed over from mere strangers into allies forged in empathy. A bond unbreakable born from compassion for fellow creatures enduring hardships out there in nature's unpredictable world. Whatever lay ahead would not matter anymore. All that mattered was here. Two hearts united amid uncertainty, ready for whatever adventure awaited outside this thicket. Tom knelt in the cool shade of the canyon, heart racing as he took in the sight of the frightened colt. Its tawny coat shone dully under the dappled light, marred by dirt and sweat from its struggles. The once lively creature now trembled, wide brown eyes revealing fear and uncertainty that tugged at Tom's heart. He knew he needed to approach with care, knowing that sudden movements could easily frighten the young animal further. "Okay, little one," Tom whispered softly, keeping his voice low and gentle. "I'm not here to hurt you. I just want to help." He took a slow breath, grounding himself before making any sudden motions. As he watched the colt's body twitch nervously, Tom began assessing the situation. He needed to devise a plan that would be both effective and safe. The colt was deeply ensnared among a web of thorny vines, their sharp edges digging into its skin with every panicked movement. Tom could see how tightly the thorns had wrapped around its legs, making it impossible for the creature to break free on its own. He felt a pang of sympathy for the colt. Trapped and alone, it must have felt so helpless. Moving cautiously, Tom shifted his body slightly to position himself where the sunlight filtered down just right. He could see better this way. He focused on identifying where he could begin to untangle the vines without causing more distress. "Let's see what we can do," he murmured, inching closer while maintaining eye contact with the colt, hoping it would sense his intentions. As he drew nearer, Tom noticed how the colt flinched at even the slightest rustle of leaves or shift of his weight. It was clearly scared, likely unsure if this new presence would be a friend or foe. Tom stopped for a moment and knelt lower, lowering his gaze to appear less intimidating. "I'm your friend," he said softly. "I'll get you out of this mess." He extended his hand slowly toward the colt, palm open, as if offering a gentle touch instead of a threat. The colt hesitated for a moment, but then seemed to recognize that Tom was not there to harm it. It leaned slightly toward him, curiosity mingling with caution, a positive sign. "Good boy," Tom encouraged quietly, as he felt a flicker of hope igniting within him. This connection appeared essential. If he could earn its trust just enough, perhaps he could help it feel safe while freeing it from captivity. With great care, Tom began evaluating each thorny vine entangling the colt's legs. He noticed how some vines were tighter than others. They seemed to cling desperately to their prize, as if determined not to let go. He decided to start with the least problematic areas first, loosening those that did not cause any discomfort, while gradually working his way toward the more complicated knots. As he worked, tenderly weaving through twigs and branches with nimble fingers, Tom spoke softly to soothe the colt's nerves. "You're doing so well," he reassured it repeatedly, feeling both their breaths synchronize within this shared moment of vulnerability. "Just hang on a little longer." With every small movement made to clear away obstacles blocking its path to freedom, Tom felt as though he were building a bridge, one crafted from patience and compassion that connected them together in their struggle against nature's grip. Time faded in and out like shadows across the canyon floor as he focused entirely on freeing this precious life from captivity. The sounds of birds singing high above and the gentle rustle of leaves blended seamlessly into white noise. All that mattered was this fragile creature before him. Cautiously untangling one stubborn vine after another allowed him glimpses into the colt's eyes. Expressions that shifted from sheer panic into moments of tentative trust as Tom grew closer to liberating it from its bindings. Finally, after what felt like an eternity spent carefully navigating through thorns and chaos, he reached the last stubborn knot lingering around one delicate leg. With bated breath, Tom recognized how this final challenge held both hope and anxiety. Everything depended on this last tug. "Here we go," he whispered fiercely, yet gently, as if channeling all his energy into this single moment. With one last determined pull on that final vine, there. The colt's leg slipped free at last. Both man and creature breathed sighs of relief at that instant. The tension melted away, like morning mist dispersing under sunlight's embrace. The colt stood still for a heartbeat, a mixture of confusion and freedom flooding its senses before taking its first tentative step forward toward Tom. With pride swelling in his chest and excitement bubbling beneath his skin, Tom grinned broadly. They had crossed an invisible threshold from despair into hope. A shared journey forged in empathy that connected them forevermore amidst uncertainties lying ahead. As Tom knelt before the colt, he felt a surge of determination mixed with apprehension. Freeing the young creature from its tangled prison would not be easy. The thorns seemed to cling to the colt as desperately as it clung to life. Each vine appeared intertwined with others, creating a dense web that obscured Tom's view. He knew he had to be cautious, for the last thing he wanted was to frighten the colt into panicking further. Tom took a deep breath, steadying himself as he surveyed the scene. The branches were sharp and unforgiving, and he could see where they dug into the colt's tender skin, leaving small marks of distress. "I'll get you out of this," he promised quietly, his voice calm yet firm. But even as he vowed to help, he felt a flutter of anxiety in his stomach. How would he navigate this challenge without causing more harm? The first obstacle was the thorny vines wrapping around the colt's legs. They formed a tight knot that seemed impossible to unravel without hurting the animal. With every gentle tug, the colt flinched, eyes wide with fear. Tom recognized that sudden movements would only escalate its panic, so he took a moment to breathe deeply and think through his next steps. "Okay," he whispered to himself, focusing on the task at hand. One step at a time. He carefully examined the positioning of the vines, trying to determine which ones were the most constraining and how best to approach them without causing undue stress. As he reached toward the colt, branches scratched against his hands as if nature itself sought to warn him against disturbing this delicate creature. The thorns pricked at his fingers, but Tom gritted his teeth and pressed on. He would endure some pain if it meant saving the colt. Tom knew he had to establish trust between them. To do this, he began speaking softly again, assuring the frightened animal that everything would be okay. Each word was meant to soothe both the colt's worries and his own. "You're so brave," he encouraged gently, trying to keep the atmosphere calm despite the chaotic surroundings. With great caution, Tom started loosening some of the less tangled vines. First, those that hugged the colt's legs loosely enough that they could be removed without causing any discomfort. He worked methodically, feeling each surrounding branch for potential dangers while gauging how the colt responded to his touch. Every time he made progress, however small, he rewarded himself with a soft smile and calming words. Yet despite his careful approach, there were setbacks. At one point, as Tom tugged gently at a stubborn vine, the colt jerked its leg back in fright, causing Tom's heart to leap into his throat. In that instant, all progress felt threatened. He froze, feeling a surge of worry wash over him. The last thing he wanted was for this frightened animal to feel more trapped or in pain. "Hey now," Tom murmured soothingly, pulling back slightly to give the colt space. His heart raced as he tried to assess what had just happened. Would the colt trust him again? "I'm not going to hurt you," he reassured it softly. "We can do this together." Tom took a moment to regain his composure before trying again. He decided then that patience was key. Rushing would only lead to more chaos. He slowly lowered himself again and resumed working on another nearby vine that appeared less threatening. As he inched closer once more, a few branches snapped back at him unexpectedly, grazing his cheek and drawing a small trickle of blood. He winced, but didn't falter. Instead, it fueled his resolve even more. "You're worth every scratch," he said quietly. His commitment grew stronger. If this colt needed rescuing, then nothing would deter him from succeeding. The sound of birds chattering above filled the air, almost like an encouragement cheering him on from above, while leaves rustled in tandem with his spirit, a symphony of nature rallying behind their shared mission. After several minutes of painstaking work and steady focus on twisting and tugging at various vines in tandem with whispering, comforting words, Tom felt triumph swell within him. Finally, a large knot came loose. The colt seemed to respond positively, too. Its trembling lessened slightly as recognition dawned in those big brown eyes. It began to believe that freedom was possible, with renewed energy coursing through him from this small victory. Tom continued pressing onward through each new obstacle laid before them. It was a test of endurance, both for him and for this young creature. But giving up wasn't an option. As he neared what appeared to be the last stubborn vine, holding fast in place around one fragile leg, hope surged like sunshine breaking through clouds overhead. With one final effort fueled by compassion and determination, Tom grasped hold firmly yet delicately, as if cradling something precious. A promise made long ago that no creature should suffer alone. "Here we go," he whispered under his breath with fierce conviction as he prepared for that final tug. A moment where everything hinged upon trust established between them. And suddenly there it was. Freedom flickered alive before them both, like light piercing through darkness. The thrill of liberation echoed in their hearts as they crossed over from despair into hopefulness. A moment woven intricately by shared trials endured together amidst all odds stacked against them. As Tom continued to work on freeing the colt from the tangled thorns and vines, he began to notice subtle changes in the young creature's demeanor. At first, the colt had been filled with fear, eyes darting wildly as it struggled against its bindings. But as Tom spoke softly and worked patiently, their connection deepened in a way that felt almost magical. Each time Tom gently tugged at a vine or whispered words of encouragement, he could see the colt responding. Its wide eyes, once filled with panic, now showed flickers of curiosity mixed with cautious trust. Tom felt a surge of hope with every soft nicker that escaped the colt's lips, as if it was beginning to understand that this stranger was there to help and not to cause harm. "See? You're doing so well," Tom encouraged, watching as the colt inched closer toward him with each gentle motion he made. The tension in the air began to ease. It was as if both man and beast were sharing an unspoken promise, a promise built on mutual understanding and vulnerability. Tom knew that building trust would require time and patience. He focused on maintaining a calm presence, carefully navigating around the colt's trembling body to avoid startling it again. After each successful loosening of the vines, he would pause for a moment, allowing the colt to process what had just happened. He remained close, offering reassurance through his gentle tone and steady gaze. At one point, Tom reached a particularly stubborn vine that seemed determined to hold fast. As he worked delicately to free it, the colt grew restless, shifting its weight and snorting softly. Sensing its rising anxiety, Tom paused his efforts and spoke soothingly once more. "I know this is scary," he said, "but I'm right here with you. We'll get through this together." Slowly but surely, Tom felt their bond strengthen. The colt's legs trembled less fiercely now. It began to take small steps toward him, as if seeking comfort in his presence, rather than shying away in fear. It leaned slightly into his touch when he gently brushed against its side to assess how tangled the vines were. This small movement marked a significant shift in their relationship. With every knot he untangled, Tom could see trust blossom between them, like flowers breaking through spring soil after a long winter. The way the colt chose to remain by his side instead of panicking was a testament to this newfound connection. It seemed to sense that Tom was working tirelessly for its freedom. As moments turned into minutes filled with focused concentration and quiet determination, Tom felt something deeper blossoming within him too, an understanding of empathy that transcended words. He wasn't just helping an animal. He was forging a friendship marked by compassion and patience amidst adversity. Finally, after what felt like an eternity spent laboring over thorns and knots, Tom grasped the last stubborn vine, still wrapped around one delicate leg of the colt. With bated breath, he knew this final pull would reveal whether their bond would culminate in freedom or whether fate would keep them apart for longer. "Here we go," he whispered fervently as he prepared for that decisive moment. A culmination of trust built through gentle assurances and shared vulnerability. His heart raced as he pulled carefully yet firmly on the vine, praying silently for success. In an instant, the vine slipped free. The colt's leg was liberated at last. Both man and animal stood still for a heartbeat. It was as if time itself paused to acknowledge this pivotal moment of triumph born from trust, forged in adversity. Tom watched breathlessly as the colt took its first tentative step forward, testing the newfound freedom it had not known for far too long. It hesitated for just a beat before looking back at Tom. Those once frightened eyes now shimmering with gratitude and recognition. A silent acknowledgement of everything they had gone through together. "Good boy," Tom cheered softly, pride swelling within him like a warm sunrise breaking over the horizon after a stormy night. The connection they had created transcended mere rescue. It was a bond steeped in shared experience, one that would carry them both forward into whatever adventures lay ahead. The colt shifted closer to Tom, as if embracing its newfound freedom while expressing gratitude toward its rescuer. Their hearts beating in sync now after having crossed over from despair into hopefulness together amidst uncertainty. As they stood united in that clearing surrounded by nature's embrace, Tom knew this encounter had left an indelible mark on both their lives. They were no longer strangers, but allies forged by compassion. An unbreakable bond formed amidst trials that would guide them forward side by side into an unknown future filled with endless possibilities. With the last stubborn vine grasped firmly in his hands, Tom felt a surge of anticipation coursing through him. The moment was upon them, a culmination of patience, trust, and determination. He knew this was it. This final tug would determine not just the colt's freedom, but also solidify the bond they had formed through their struggles. "Here we go," he whispered fiercely yet softly, channeling all his energy into that single moment. Tom pulled carefully but firmly, feeling the resistance give way under his touch. The tension in the vine seemed to dissolve as he exerted just the right amount of pressure, and then, pop! The vine slipped free. In an instant, the colt's leg was liberated from its bonds. Both man and animal paused, as if time itself held its breath to acknowledge the victory. Tom's heart swelled with joy and relief as he watched the colt take its first tentative step forward, testing its newfound freedom. Those wide brown eyes, once clouded with fear, now sparkled with recognition and gratitude. "Good boy," Tom exclaimed, a grin breaking across his face, filled with pride and elation. He could hardly contain the rush of emotion that flooded over him. They had made it. The colt shifted its weight from side to side, unsure yet exhilarated by the liberation it had long yearned for. With each careful step, it began to understand that it was no longer trapped and alone. Tom took a moment to celebrate this small victory, feeling a sense of accomplishment wash over him like warm sunlight breaking through gray clouds after a storm. It was a reminder of the power of compassion and determination in overcoming obstacles. But in that fleeting moment of joy, another thought crept into his mind. There was still much work ahead. While the colt had been freed from the thorns, Tom realized it needed more than just physical liberty. It required nurturing to heal from its ordeal. The creature looked exhausted, its tawny coat matted with dirt and sweat from its struggles. Tom understood that they couldn't simply emerge from this experience without addressing the emotional scars left behind. "Hey there," he said gently as he crouched down again to meet the colt's gaze at eye level. "You've been through so much. Let's take our time now." He reached out slowly, hoping the colt would sense that they were no longer in a life-or-death struggle, but entering a new chapter together, a journey toward healing and companionship. The colt edged closer to him, still wary but more trusting than before. Tom smiled softly at this gesture, recognizing how far they had come together. "I'll stay right here," he reassured it. "You can take your time." As the moments passed, they remained in that serene clearing, surrounded by nature's embrace. The birds chirping overhead and gentle breezes rustling through leaves added an almost magical ambiance to their shared space. Tom took this opportunity to observe the colt now standing free. He noted how its legs quivered slightly, as if reacquainting itself with movement after enduring confinement. The bond forged in that moment was palpable. It transcended words and gestures, woven into every breath taken together amidst this newfound freedom. The colt approached Tom cautiously, but confidently, as it began to recognize him, not just as a rescuer, but as an ally who had fought for its liberation. Tom remained present, aware of how vital it was for the colt to feel safe and supported during this transition. He gently reached out his hand again, allowing the young creature to approach at its own pace while offering comfort through his soothing voice. "You're safe now," he whispered reassuringly. Suddenly, without warning, a flicker of energy surged through the colt as it took a few bold steps around Tom. Curiosity igniting within those once timid eyes. It pranced lightly on its hooves, as if celebrating its newfound freedom while testing out the strength of its legs again. Tom chuckled softly at this burst of spirit. The sheer delight radiating from the young animal brought warmth flooding through him. "That's it. You've got this," he cheered on instinctively, captivated by its display of joy and relief. The exuberance in those playful movements reminded him just how precious life truly is, how resilience can emerge even from moments steeped in despair. They were both on a journey now, one that would lead them toward healing, friendship, and adventures waiting just beyond the canyon walls. As they stood together in that clearing filled with sunlight and laughter echoing in the air, Tom felt an unwavering sense of hope blooming within him. It sparked brighter than ever before as he embraced this small victory, while remaining mindful of all the work still ahead. A shared path illuminated by trust, forged through trials they had faced together. As Tom and the colt began their journey back to the ranch, a sense of purpose filled the air. The colt, now free from the thorns that had held it captive, walked beside Tom with cautious steps. Although its legs still trembled from the ordeal, there was a spark of determination in its eyes that reassured Tom of their budding friendship. Each step they took echoed the promise of healing and new beginnings. Navigating back through the winding canyon paths, Tom kept a watchful eye on the young creature. It navigated carefully over rocks and roots, demonstrating a newfound resilience. He felt a deep sense of pride as he glanced down at his companion. This was no longer just an animal he had freed, but rather a partner in their shared journey toward recovery. Once they reached the ranch, Tom led the colt into the barn, a familiar space filled with warmth, rich scents of hay, and soft murmurs of other animals. This would be a sanctuary for healing. He opened the barn door wide, gesturing for the colt to enter first. "Come on in," he encouraged gently, patting his knee to coax it forward. The colt paused briefly before walking inside, hesitantly but with growing confidence. Tom watched closely as it explored its new surroundings, snorting softly while its ears flicked in every direction. This was a safe place. Here, they could start anew. He moved to gather some fresh hay and water for his new friend, making sure it had everything it needed after such an exhausting day. Setting up a cozy corner with soft bedding made from hay, Tom arranged everything with care. "This is your space now," he said warmly as he spread out the bedding, creating a comfortable nest for the colt to rest in after its long ordeal. After filling a trough with cool water and watching as the colt approached cautiously to take a drink, he felt relief blossom within him, knowing that this young creature was safe and cared for once more. The simple act of drinking seemed to revive some energy in it, lifting its spirits just enough for Tom to notice. Once settled in, Tom took a moment to sit quietly beside his companion. He knew that caring for the colt involved more than just providing food and shelter. It required nurturing trust and helping it heal emotionally from its recent trauma. "You're not alone anymore," he spoke softly while gently running his hand along its neck. An instinctual gesture meant to comfort both himself and the colt. The tenderness of that touch seemed to resonate deeply within them. The colt leaned into him slightly while closing its eyes in contentment, as if acknowledging Tom's presence brought reassurance amidst uncertainty. Tom understood this was just the beginning of their journey together. The path ahead would require patience and understanding as they navigated through healing. Watching how some dirt still clung stubbornly to its coat reminded him of how much care would be necessary, not only physically, but also emotionally, to help mend any fears left behind by past experiences. With renewed purpose sparking inside him like an ember catching fire, Tom decided they would begin nurturing this bond right away. "Let's get you cleaned up," he said brightly as he fetched grooming supplies from nearby shelves. The brushes were well worn, yet loved by many creatures before this young one had arrived. He returned to find the colt watching curiously, as if sensing something new was about to unfold between them. Gently lifting a brush to stroke through its tawny coat brought immediate reactions. Small shivers traveled through its frame, signaling both nervousness and excitement at being touched again after so long spent ensnared. "Easy there," he soothed, while moving slowly. Every stroke became rhythmic, a calming routine meant to ease both their souls into familiarity built upon kindness rather than fear. As minutes slipped by like grains of sand falling through fingers, Tom found joy blossoming in simple acts. The way the colt relaxed under gentle brushing, or how it sniffed curiously at apples offered as treats, brought smiles brighter than sunshine pouring through barn windows. With each passing day spent nurturing this remarkable bond forged amidst adversity, sharing laughter over playful moments or comforting touches during quiet times, Tom recognized how special this connection truly was. Life intertwined beautifully between man and beast, finding solace together beneath one roof where hope thrived. Knowing that challenges lay ahead on this journey didn't frighten him. Instead, it instilled confidence born from compassion, a commitment rooted deeply within his heart, promising never-ending support as both would learn about themselves alongside each other, navigating forward hand in hoof into brighter tomorrows waiting just around every bend. As the days turned into weeks, Tom found himself reflecting deeply on the experience of rescuing the colt from the canyon. Each moment spent nurturing this young creature had taught him invaluable lessons that would stay with him for a lifetime. Sitting quietly in the barn one afternoon, he watched as the colt grazed peacefully on fresh hay, its coat shining in the warm sunlight that streamed through the open door. There was something about this quiet scene that filled Tom with gratitude and introspection. He thought back to the day he first heard the colt's desperate cries echoing through the canyon. That moment had been a turning point, not just for the colt, but for himself as well. Driven by compassion and a sense of duty, he had followed the sound, overcoming his fears and doubts to help someone in need. He realized now how important it was never to ignore those cries for help, no matter how distant they may seem. There's always someone or something out there waiting for a little kindness, he mused, feeling a swell of emotion rise within him. Tom had learned that compassion wasn't just about acts of kindness. It was about empathy and understanding. He recalled how the colt had initially trembled in fear, wary of his presence. It was only through patience and gentle reassurance that their bond formed. This taught him that trust takes time to build and that genuine care could bridge even the widest gaps between beings. We are all connected in our journeys, he thought. Every creature deserves love and support, especially when they are vulnerable. As he continued to watch the colt explore its surroundings, Tom felt a renewed sense of responsibility growing within him. The journey they had taken together was far from over. While the colt had found freedom from physical captivity, Tom understood that emotional healing was just as crucial. He committed himself to providing not just shelter and food, but also companionship and affection. He wanted to ensure that the colt would never feel alone or afraid again. In those quiet moments of reflection, Tom also recognized how his own life had changed through this experience. The act of caring for another being had rekindled a sense of purpose within him, reminding him why he had chosen to become a rancher in the first place. Each animal he cared for was not just a responsibility, but a chance to forge meaningful connections and make a positive impact on their lives. What we do for others reflects who we are, he whispered softly to himself, feeling inspired by this newfound wisdom. It was a simple truth, but one that resonated deeply within his heart. He knew he'd continue to advocate for those who couldn't speak for themselves, whether they were animals or people in need. Tom also took note of how nature itself played a role in their healing journey together. The sunrises they shared each morning and the gentle rustle of leaves in the breeze reminded him of life's beauty and fragility. Every day brought new lessons in resilience. Both he and the colt were learning that healing is often not linear, but filled with ups and downs. We're both stronger than we think, he reflected, knowing that facing challenges head-on only made them more capable in the long run. As he stood up from his spot in the barn and approached the colt with an apple treat in hand, Tom smiled at how far they had come together. The colt now greeted him with eager anticipation rather than shyness, a testament to their growing trust. It nuzzled against his side while munching happily on the apple, reminding Tom of how rewarding it is to nurture relationships built on love. In this small yet significant moment, Tom felt certain that their bond would continue to flourish over time. He envisioned future adventures they would embark upon together, exploring wide-open fields, sharing quiet evenings under starlit skies, or simply enjoying each other's company during peaceful days spent at the ranch. As he fed the colt and patted its neck affectionately, Tom realized that this experience had left an indelible mark on his soul. It reaffirmed his commitment to compassion and responsibility, while igniting a fire within him to always lend a helping hand when needed. I will never ignore those in need again, he promised silently as their eyes met. It was a vow not just for himself, but for every creature that called his ranch home. Together, they were embarking on a journey woven with lessons learned from challenges faced, proving that through compassion comes healing, connection, and hope for both man and beast as they navigated their path forward side by side into brighter tomorrows waiting just beyond the horizon.